WFM 91.7.
Good afternoon and welcome to the third episode of 16 Days of Activism on Violence Against Women. Today's the third day, and that's why today's the third episode of the 16 Days of Activism on Violence Against Women. My name is Sumto Titilayo Ajama, and we're still discussing 16 Days of Activism on Violence Against Women. Today marks the third day of the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, and I have said previously that we are running a 16-day series, today being the third day, and we'll continue until day 16. This started on Friday, 25th November, which was the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women, and it runs until 10th of December, the Human Rights Day. The 16 Days of Activism campaign is an annual international movement aimed at addressing issues of violence against women and girls. So, during the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, we will be reviewing some organizations and their achievements, as well as their strategies in the prevention and elimination of violence against women and girls. My guest today is Barrister Hafsat Dange, President, Association of Northern Women Entrepreneurs. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, thank you again. To be a part of the conversation, the number to call is 07000 917 917. 07000 917 917. You can also as well send in a text message or a WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537. 0703 175 6537. All right, coming to you now, Barrister Hafsat. Tell us about the journey so far, particularly with the Association of Northern Women Entrepreneurs, and how they have done in combating violence against women and girls so far.
Okay, thank you very much. I am very, very happy to be part of those that are working hard towards achieving the violence-free community, especially here in northern Nigeria. And you may recall that during COVID-19, there were a series of incidents and a lot of organizations, both local and international organizations, sprang into action with different initiatives aimed at curbing this menace. So the Association of Northern Women Entrepreneurs was not left out. We collaborated with a lot of organizations, including Women Radio and the Maria Mata Initiative and other international organizations in joining a massive campaign that had to do with the issue of sensitization. Because for the northern Nigeria, it was a major issue. A lot of people didn't even know that it was a crime. A lot of people didn't know what to do when it happens. And the perpetrators kept going away with the crime, no repercussions for action and all that. So we went through a massive sensitization campaign against the culture of silence, which for northern Nigeria, it was a big issue. Whenever violence happens, especially that of rape, there's this cultural barrier and hindrance that prevents, victims or parents of victims from actually voicing it out. So they rather just keep quiet because of the stigma attached to it. So we really fought hard against the culture of silence in northern Nigeria. We did a lot of webinars in Hausa language. We did a lot of radio programs. And again, we paid visits to stakeholders like the Ministries of Women Affairs, the SAC Center we have here in Sokoto, the Nana Khadija Center, and we engaged stakeholders like the FIDA and the police, the civil defense, and all those are supposed to be involved in the overall value chain. And what we also did was to actually get in touch with victims. And the major takeaway from our engagement with victims was the issue of poverty and lack of empowerment. A lot of women stayed in violent relationships because they didn't have anywhere to go, they didn't have money or funds or something to do to take care of themselves. Because the truth is that when you can actually take care of yourself, that financially and economically you will not remain in a violent relationship.
Absolutely.
So most people that stayed on prolonged their stay with a violent partner or in a violent situation, actually did that because they didn't have anything to do. So we trained them, we gave them entrepreneurship training, and we actually gave them psychosocial support too, and actually taught them that they could integrate back into the community like normal people. Like that stigma is overemphasized, especially when they believe it, they believe that the stigma, that they are victims, and they continue with that belief, so it actually stays with them and affects their livelihood. So that's what we've been doing, because we didn't just end with the end of COVID. We actually continued, and on every occasion that we could. So even in our normal programming, we try to make sure that we integrate those victims too into our programming, so that they can at least feel free and feel loved, and they could go about their normal businesses in the community.
Absolutely. See, this is very important, and what your organization is doing definitely is something that it's worth emulating, particularly in the northern areas, because that particular area is filled with people who might not necessarily be aware of what is going on, particularly when it comes to combating violence against women. They might not have all the relevant information, which is why the work that your organization is doing is very, very commendable. Thank you very much, Barrister Hafsat. All right, so what measures has your organization put in place? Because you've mentioned a number of things, and I believe that in line with all of these advocacy, there are some things that are already put in place by your organization in order to work to continue the progress against continue the progress on the fight against gender-based violence.
Okay. So, as you know, our organization is an entrepreneurial network. So we have a membership of different women that are already established in our communities, that were doing business, and some that are not even in business joined because they would want to partake into the volunteer, as mentors in one area or the other. So we came up with a campaign called Talk to Me campaign. So that campaign entails we did train the trainer, and trained women that volunteered to be part of that project, on how to handle complaints of gender-based violence. So after that, we did some posters of our campaign logo where, if you have a salon, or you have a tailoring shop, or you have a supermarket, and you are a trained counselor for that project, you would put that poster in your shop. So whenever somebody is being violated or something is happening to a girl in school and she cannot really confide in her parents or close ones, she could just walk in and talk to that trained counselor. So that poster signifies that there is a trained person that is willing, to listen and guide that person. So what really instigated that project is the issue of what we call that cultural thing, some parents are not even close to their daughters. So we got some cases, and after digging, we discovered that when violence happens, they don't go to the parents are not the first people that these kids go to because they are afraid. Culturally, they will just say, it's your fault. Why did you go there?
Exactly.
Why didn't you wear your hijab?
That's why they don't like talking about it.
Yes. Why didn't you wear your hijab? Why did you go there? Why did you allow him to touch you? It's your fault. And at the end of the day, no one sees any problem with the perpetrator. Rather, the victim is being accused. So we found a lot of reasons why we feel that these girls prefer to talk to strangers, that will not what do you call it, that will not accuse them, or that will not label them, or that things like that. So these counselors have been trained to on where and how to put up these complaints. We collaborated with the SAC Center. We collaborated with the women lawyers group and civil defense. So we have this network of a chain of collaborators, for that project. So it's amazing because sometimes we get questions and we have numbers on the flyers. We get questions, that are basic questions, from schoolgirls. So, young schoolgirls, what can I do? I'm having these rashes. I don't know. I've menstruated once and I've not seen it again. I don't know what it means. So basic sexual reproductive
like
health
that.
questions. So they are asking people that they think that are in a better position to listen to them. So we felt that issue of barrier, the cultural barrier, that parents are not even close to their kids, and even if they are not free to talk about those things with their mothers. Still made us feel that this project is a very important project.
Definitely.
And again, we're stepping it down to local communities. Yes, to the local community. So we're now in phase 2 of the project, training local government representatives.
Thank you so much.
So we chose women that are willing to take part in the project so that they can be able to also accept and counsel young girls, even in the village setting, not just the urban areas.
Absolutely, which is very needed. So would you say that people are beginning to end the culture of silence by speaking out? Would that apply?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So imagine before this started, it wasn't even an issue that you could even talk freely on. Before this whole GBV campaign started, women felt it was like a no-go area because the men are always there telling them that if something happens to your daughter and you report, who would marry her? What will happen to your family background? So all those things. So we've started seeing that change because of all these sensitizations. People are actually talking about it, and people also know that violence transcends the issue of rape or physical violence. So they now know other aspects of violence, like the economic violence, and which is very, very, very common in northern Nigeria.
I can only
when
imagine.
a marriage institution breaks down with children, the wife is abandoned, the children are abandoned with the wife that cannot even
provide.
That cannot provide. So that is also a form of violence, but people don't know. People just accept it, so people are beginning to understand that violence transcends just rape and other physical and battery. It even includes emotional trauma. So we're really happy about the outcome, because a lot of people, not just the international organizations, the local organizations too, are springing into actions and doing their best in this regard.
Thank you so much. 15 minutes past 12 on Women Radio 91.7. And this is still the series on 16 Days of Activism on Violence Against Women. Today is the 3rd day. And so this is the 3rd episode on the 16 Days of Activism Against Violence series. We're using this to commemorate the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence that began on Friday, 25th November 2022, and is ending on the 10th of November 2020, on the 10th of December, 2022. My guest today is Barrister Hafsat Dange, and she is the President, Association of Northern Women Entrepreneurs. You can call in to 07000 917 917. You can also ask questions, lend your voice through a text message or a WhatsApp message. The number to send that to is 0703 175 6537. 0703 175 6537. All right, so coming back to you now, Barrister Hafsat, I'm sure, looking at the progress made so far, this cannot just be the end of the progress made so far. There has to be more work done so that it can get to as many more people, as many more women, as many more girls that can be impacted, still need to be impacted. So what more does the Association of Northern Women Entrepreneurs still plan to do to continue moving this work forward?
Okay, so I would say that the local associations cannot do a lot when government, is not really willing to join in the fight. So we're also facing challenges that if, for instance, government, act on those areas, would do a better job or would succeed more in eliminating the issue of gender-based violence completely. Like, for instance, the issue of providing the SAC centers, that's the sexual and assault response centers.
Mm-hmm.
So these are centers that are needed in every local government council. So take Sokoto, for instance. We have 23 local governments in the state, and we have just one center servicing the whole state. And that center is actually a donor-funded center, So we need government to be more proactive in providing these centers, because it's without centers that will respond to these issues like rape, there can never be prosecutions, because these centers serve as the first point of response. For instance, if rape happens and the girl isn't taken to any center, and they go to complain to the police, and the police take the issue to court and everything. There's no evidence whatsoever that can link the victim from the perpetrator to the crime.
And this makes a big issue, because how do you get justice when you can't link the crime to the perpetrator?
You can never do that without that first response. And when perpetrators are not being punished, these crimes are going scot-free. It can never end. So when we say that we want to end it, it means that we want a situation where it will just be a thing of a past. So when we're not getting prosecutions, these evil perpetrators are even bragging around the community, saying that nothing will happen. Even if they get me, I will come back. Because we had a case of a young girl who was raped, and the thing was taken to court and everything. The victim, the perpetrator, was even bragging to her that nothing is going to happen. I'm going to come out in the next 5 days. And actually, he was out. He was out, and the victim even couldn't even stay in her community because she was scared that something will happen to her.
She was scared for her life.
Target her for reporting, So if something happens in a local government that is maybe 50 to 30 kilometers away from the SAC centers, before they can even come there, we've already lost evidence, So the victim must have taken their baths, must have changed clothes, and things like that. So if there's nothing tangible that can be used against that person, of course the person will go scot-free. So the SAC center is supposed to be provided in every local government area, so that whatever happens, the victim will be taken there and the victim will be taken care of, because the use of the center is not just to get evidence, it's for that immediate medical care, so that unwanted pregnancy can be prevented, so that diseases will be prevented, and the victim will be given psychosocial support, because it's a very traumatic experience,
That's true.
So yes, so when there is none, and we keep saying that we want to end violence, we want to end rape, we want to end all forms of violence, it doesn't really sit well with us. So I think government, not just in my state, in every state, must be intentional about this fight. They shouldn't just come on TV and in programs when we invite them and give us empty promises. They have to, at least do their own part. And I believe that in every local government there are facilities, because we have community health care centers, and we have a lot of girls and boys that are graduating from medical school, that are graduating from nursing school. So, we could I don't think there's anything big that needs to be done for these centers to be created, because I'm sure international donor organizations will be willing to train this personnel,
exactly.
on these responses.
So that they can actually know what to do in such cases.
Yeah, so I think government needs to be really intentional about this fight. It's not a fight for NGOs, local organizations, or international organizations only.
Okay, thank you so much. So just to be specific and to really narrow things down for the listener, what kind of support is provided for survivors by the Association of Northern Entrepreneurs, being that they're just, it's an entrepreneurship association?
Yes. So as we said, that we serve as a link between them and the support they can get from the SAC centers or the Federation of Lawyers Associations here, or the police, because those that this affects, especially, in fact, not even those of the rural communities. So people can even have educated parents, but they don't really know where to start. They don't know where to go and complain. They don't know that there are designated centers that receive these cases of rape and violence. So we serve as that link between the people that need this help and the necessary organizations. Also, as I've pointed out earlier on, we support the victims, with skills, and entrepreneurship training, and we link them up to support like funding and mentorship, because most of them need that. They need to be economically independent. Most girls that are affected are those that are being sent for hawking of one sort or the other, or those girls that usually are divorcees, that they were abandoned maybe by a husband, and they go in search of green pastures, and things like that happen to them. So, and even those that are even under their parents that have it all need that, what do you call it, interaction, like a safe space where they can interact and get their minds off the trauma of rape and violence.
Exactly.
So we offer that. So in our programming, we make sure that we key in those victims, because we have their list from the ministries and other organizations and the center. We have their list, so we know those that need that kind of support. So we usually include them in our programming, in our mentorship programs, entrepreneurship programs, and so on and so forth.
All right, thank you so much. So at this point, I'd like to know whether you have stakeholders that are involved and influential in different areas of expertise that you would like to collaborate with to further enhance and pass the message of advocacy against violence against women.
Yes, of course. Sometimes when you're a local organization, you need that, you need that necessary push and alignment with a bigger organization, so that they would, your project will really be enhanced. And, when it comes to even maybe getting, grants to go bigger. And also, we're already collaborating with organizations like RAPA, who, have more ability to access funding. And we're looking into collaborating with UN Women, and the EU, because they are really doing a lot in our local environment. I've seen a grant that just came out from the UN Trust Fund, which is something that is supposed to help us in this fight. So our organization is going to apply for that grant and to see how we could also collaborate with other organizations, so that we can take these fights to a bigger level, because we really need that. It's not something that we can slow down on at this juncture.
That's true. That's very true. Thank you so much. So the number is still 07,000 917 917. It's 26 minutes past 12, and we're still discussing, we're reviewing achievements and strategies of various organizations as regards their advocacy against gender-based violence. The number to call is 07,000 917 917. You can also send in a text message or a WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537. 0703 175 6537. Now, if you haven't tuned in before and you're just tuning in, the most important thing you need to know is that we're commemorating the 16 days of activism on violence against women. So today's the third day, and so this is the third episode in the series so far. I'm speaking with Barrister Hafsat Dange today, President, Association of Northern Women Entrepreneurs, and she's been talking to us about their journey so far, everything that they do for survivors, the fact that they're a link between women and the services that they actually need, and they actually will or hope to collaborate with big organizations in future to further their cause of advocating against gender-based violence. So as we wrap up now, Barrister Hafsat, what is your call to action and what is your commitment from your organization to women out there?
Okay, so my final message is to everybody. Please, everybody should know that the fight against violence, not just gender violence and all harmful practices, is not a fight for one person. It's not a fight for government alone or international organizations alone or local NGOs alone. It's everybody's fight. And it's something that should be started from the family level down to the community. So please, we must all be intentional about this fight. Everybody must do their part. Everybody must take up active role in ensuring that these issues are wiped away from our organizations. Parents of boys, please know that you should not ignore, the boys, the upbringing of the boys, because they are key partners in this crime, So gender rarely happens, violence rarely happens between a woman and a woman or a girl and a girl. It rarely happens. So it happens, but it rarely happens. So it's usually most happens between a boy and the opposite genders. So we as parents must know that we should be enabled to give our boys the right training, the right mindset to be able to respect women and to be able to be their caregivers and to be their protectors. So government should be able to be intentional, as I've pointed out earlier on, and I would like to encourage the organizations, especially local organizations that are seriously fighting at the community level. I would like to appreciate the bigger organizations, the international organizations that are actually supporting these organizations in this fight. So I also commend the Women Radio especially, because for as long as I've known Women Radio, you've been, a key player in advocating for these issues and amplifying our voices, so that people would know what we're doing and people would also have the zeal to join this fight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Barrister Hafsat. It's been a very enlightening conversation today. And truthfully, if we don't keep talking about this, there will be no end to gender-based violence. So we have to continue this advocacy. I know that it's not an easy journey, but it's worth it at the end of the day.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining us on the program. Thank you very much. And please enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much. It is so important to keep raising awareness, particularly concerning gender-based violence. I know we have established the fact that gender-based violence is not female restrictive, neither is it male restrictive. But it is important to note, just as Barrister Hafsat Dange has said, it is rarely, very, very rarely happening between female and female or male and male. More often than not, it's a case of opposite sex gender-based violence. So that is why it is important to carry our ladies along, to carry our young girls along, and also to carry our young boys and young men along as well. Thank you very much for tuning in today. And it is important to keep raising this awareness, to spread this message of zero tolerance of all forms of violence against women and girls. It is also key to informing victims of their rights and their support services that can be available to them. Organizations like the Association of Northern Women Entrepreneurs are very well placed to develop grassroots initiatives to prevent violence against women and girls and to also support these victims. So you can do your part by speaking out if you notice any form of abuse against women in your community. Let us unite and be deliberate in eliminating violence against women and girls. Special thanks to my guest, Barrister Hafsat Dange, President, Association of Northern Women Entrepreneurs, and to you for being a part of the program. Thank you very much to the producer as well, Esther Elizabeth Akwerigbe, rather. Thank you so much. Remember to continue these conversations and continue to prefer solutions, because this is the way that we contribute to our society. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Sumto Titilayo Ajama. Good afternoon.